Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back. Welcoming you to the Post-Fight Show with STORMYBMAN and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens as we bring you another post-fight show. Sorry about the little bit of a delay there, family, but STORMYBMAN had to do a little snow removal because out here in the Shy, we getting some snowfall here, you know what I'm saying? So we just want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm not dangling you on the string, but I got to take care of some things first before we come out here and present you with the show. So, with no further ado, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host here on the show, Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens, as we get ready to present this wonderful show for you today. And what's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro? Wow. Yeah, man, and it was an alert that came through like yesterday, early in the day, man. It said over the next couple of days that we could be seeing a storm for the Midwest, and I was like, dang, and I, checked the radar, the Doppler, and see where it was, and we're smack dead in the middle of it. So it's like, however long it's gonna last, that's what it's gonna be for us. And I ain't really feeling it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, I used to treat it like, oh, I can go do snow removal, treat it as a form of exercise. But I'm like, nah, that was a few years ago. So, but no, my snowblower is on the blink. It needs a tune-up, and this kind of happened before I had a chance to put it in the shop. We've been having such mild weather here. It's like, I hadn't really even thought about it because the weather has been extremely mild for the Shy. I mean, we've been having like 40s and, the coldest it had been up until a few days ago was like, I think like 30 something in it. It finally got down to 20 something, 20s. So, but here in the Shy, it could get like 0 and sub-zero. So we've been having it mild, man. And we're already through January. It's about to be February. So, unless February comes in with a huge kick, in the rear pants, we might get out of this. So, but yeah, man, let's salute to our people here in the chat, man. We've had some people that were out here a little early. Let me put my eyeballs on, my extra eyeballs, so I can read this. We got Drama Allergy. Says, over from KQKC and the OG. 87 minutes until post-fight. Hope I can stay up. Eastern time zones, he says. He said, subbed either way. Salute. Thank you for that. If you're still out there, got Drama Allergy, appreciate you and your subscription to the channel, man. And salute to KQKC for asking his audience members to come over and check out our post-fight show. We are LDBC strong, and we support one another, and it's nice to see that the OG is making sure that you guys, know about our show over here post-fight. So appreciate that. DT is out there. He says, yeah, I came over too, but sipping in the backyard, so I should be able. Not if you sip too much, DT. And let's see. He said, it's cool. I'll be back at 11. Well, I hope he's out there now. Chi-Town's Finest is out there, says, all love, family. And he says, I have to be at work in a few hours. I wanted to show some love before I pass out. Appreciate that. And salute to Time to Annie Up in that super chat. He says, salute Stormy and the chat. Appreciate your support of the channel, man, with your super chat. Time to Annie Up is also saluting the other people that were in there with him. Syndicate J is out there, says, salute STORMYBMAN. LeVar Cooper is out there as well, says, at Stormy, salute Sensei, salute to you, and salute to the entire chat, he says. Big Lake Show says, salute Unc at Stormy B Man, and salute to the chat. Salute to you, brother. Good to see you back. And Big Homie Coop is out there, says, salute Sifu. Salute to you. And Omega Red is out there. Omega Red says, salute at Stormy B Man. And oh, it's jumped up on me. That means we got more people piling into the show. Who else? Bruce Goes, the OG, is out there, says salute at Stormy B Man OG. And Bruce Goes, we're going to have to get you on there one day too, man, on one of the shows on the Stormy B Man channel. Because you out here, you rocking hard with the family, man. You showing support in many ways, and we want to show some gratitude for you for that. I know you've been on some streams, so I'm going to invite you over here, get you on here one day. Reggie is doing double duty in the chat. DT says salute again at us. And Mr. Denaro is out there, says, I can't hear Reggie. Okay. Reggie, can you hear yourself in that playback? Okay, let me, while we are here, let's see. We will switch it, and hopefully that will take us out of that situation. Okay, family, now let's do a microphone check for Reggie and see if we can hear Reggie now. Say something, Reggie. And if you guys can hear Reggie in the chat now, please put a 1 in the chat so we'll know that we can proceed forward without any further difficulties. So,
test.
So, family, if you can hear Reggie, just put a 1 in the chat now if you can hear him now. Just waiting for it, because that's that little bit of a live delay that I was telling you about, Reggie. Let's see. It should be fine, though. It should be fine now, because I took you off of the interface, the audio interface. How about on your playback, Reggie? Can you hear yourself?
I hear it now, Stormy, man. We good.
Okay, good. Okay, and now the ones are starting to show up. Okay, sorry about that, family, that we had that little bit of a glitch, but it looks like we're good to go now. And we, like I said, we got Reggie out there, and we're gonna proceed forward with the acknowledgments of who's out there, because it's important that I acknowledge you guys before we get cooking. Ricky E245 is out there. He says, what up, Stormy B Man? And Omega Red, I announced we got Renee Box Young out there. He says, family. Curtis Anderson is out there. He says, salute to you, Kurt. Good to see you. Boxing and Barbecue is out there, my man. He says, Stormy. And the Perfection has joined us, said, up in here. And Cornelius Weatherford is out there, says, Fred sent me over. All right, man. Appreciate that. Salute to Fred, and salute to you, Cornelius, for joining the channel here for tonight's show. And let's see, we've got some more activity here in the chat. People are greeting one another. I see those ones that come up. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right down into the nitty and the gritty. This evening, I had the most horrible experience with my streaming service, Reggie. So I was streaming so bad, I was like maybe a round and a half behind you. And I know you were having a little bit of a delay, but I was like, mine was really delayed, bro. And I was like, man, it was buffering like crazy. And I just didn't enjoy it at all because of that, you know. And so I was listening to you, you know, and just trying to watch and everything. So it really sucked for me this evening, man. That's probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had with my streaming service. But I really think that it had more to do with my signal in my house than the service itself, which is why I invested in some higher end Wi-Fi boosters for my home, which I should be getting before the end of the week. And hopefully it'll be better, you know. Sheldon Holmes is out there. He says, OG Stormy B-Man, what up though? Caleb Plant hands are sweet, but that Philly shell defense along with his cardio and reflexes, not that magnifique. Yeah, okay. And Andrew Charles says, salute Stormy B-Man. So Reggie, based upon what you were able to see in tonight's efforts out of Plant versus Truax, let's just get this right out of the way. We knew that this was a showcase fight for Caleb Plant. We knew that it was not going to be a threat for him, and it was an opportunity for him to look sweet, you know, and take care of business and put his name out there in front of the masses early in the year, because, you know, there's talks about Canelo Alvarez fighting, you know, multiple times this year, at least 3 times. It has been announced that he wants to fight at least 3 times, but we'll see if that actually happens. But you got a chance to see it yourself firsthand. I kind of was able to just see bits and parts when it wasn't buffering. What was your thoughts about Plant's performance starting off with this?
I thought it was a good performance. It was a clean shutout. He didn't leave any competitive moments in there for Caleb Truax, except he was doing some things that bugged me, which upset me a lot when he was getting hit with those right hands. But that's from the aspects of when I'm looking at it, I'm visualizing it like he's in there with a Canelo or David Benavidez. Those are the type of punches you cannot let slip through. But it was still an impressive performance. He showed that he has very quick hands. His combinations are sweet. When he does great defensive movements with turning the angles, slipping out the way of shots, rolling and trying to deflect and get out the way of some of these punches. But in this moment, even without these crowds being in here, there's a little bit of moments where this guy fell asleep and he got hit with a solid uppercut from Caleb Truax that should not have been landed on him. He got hit with some right hooks that should have not been landed on him. But it's just being in the moment of who he's in there with. That moments, yeah, he fell asleep on this guy. He kind of got lured away from what was at hand and the threat that Truax can possibly, be for him in that fight. But he also showed that he has pretty strong, solid chin, because he got hit with some very solid shots and didn't seem buzzed or anything by any of these punches. Now, a lot of people bring up the aspects, he didn't get the guy up out of there, blah, blah, blah. That ain't what fighting about. Fighting ain't about knocking everybody out. It's going in there, putting on putting in each and every round better than the next guy. And what he did in each and every one of these rounds is leave no room for Caleb Truax to be competitive one round. There's no question in a single round in this fight, a single second in this fight. He had the fight secured for the 12-round duration that it went. And he created such a problem for Truax that Truax spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get a right hand in there. It was nothing he can do. So that's the difficulty that Caleb Plant added in there. But it's the fact that he had those moments where he got hit with that. If he in there with a Benavidez or Canelo, he's not going to do that. Those would be fights that I think he'll wake up for. But once again, boxing ain't fighting period ain't all about knockouts. The minute you try to go to knock somebody out and thinking it's about knocking somebody out is the minute you go in there and you get dusted off. And I think that's the problem with the way in which people look and view at fights. This is a brilliant performance, but the only knocks I have, which really ain't nothing, is the fact that he was hit with some of those uppercuts in right hand, but they're like one punch at a time between rounds. It wasn't like he got hit with multiple of these big hand shots. He barely left anything for Truax to really hit him with. Very, very stylish performance. Great performance on my end. He fought through the hand injury, and that was the thing I was worried about. I thought he injured his hand in the last moments of that 12th round, where I clearly seen him shake at his hands, and he did confirm it in a post-fight, but he said it happened earlier. So those are some of the things he has to work with, but once again, he worked through it. He went in there, and he just outpunched this dude. So him and Canelo again, or Benavidez, it's going to be a great fight. And I don't think it's a fight that people sound like they don't think he deserved. The dude's a champion. The dude is undefeated. He deserves all these top dudes, and it's up to him to start voicing that he wants to fight these dudes and not using the thing of whoever they put in front of me, that's who I'm going to knock down. Nah, whatever they put in front of you as far as Canelo and Benavidez is who you go in there and you knock down. But that's my thoughts on that one. What's up to the OG Kurt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's see. We got the OG Kurt in here. And welcome, Kurt. Welcome to the show, man. How you doing this evening? And we appreciate you being with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm surprised I'm up this late watching video music box under the covers. It's cold. It's about 15 degrees in Newark. It's cold as I don't know what, man. The house is nice and toasty, though. But tonight's fight, ain't we some boxing-loving people? Bruce Gold's always supporting. What's up, Reg, man? I love your content. You're doing good things, man. You know, but Bruce Gold's always there, man. So me and Bruce was on panel Blood Boxing earlier. But I'm not impressed with Caleb Plant, man. I'm not. I see holes in his defense. He's not the master boxer people think he is. And, you know, if he was in the ring with a better opponent, it could have been different. You know, you could use the broke hand as an excuse, but it just seems to me he's missing something. Couldn't put my hand on it, but he's a good boxer, but he's not a master boxer. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't up for the fight. It looked like he wasn't that. He was just going through the emotions. Maybe he'll fight differently. I don't want to be too hard, but I'm not going to be too soft. I'm just not impressed. I think he needs more fights, you know, to beat Canelo. I don't know if he could beat Benavidez. He has the style, but it takes more than that. I'm not going to be on here long, but I'll be listening. But I just wanted to speak my piece. And he said his hand is probably broke. So he needs to go back to the drawing board. And I keep telling people that fighters like Plant and Andrade and Charlo has a little bit more vigor. He fights with a lot more aggression. But I don't know if those guys are ready for that stage, man. That's why I pick Canelo against the field. It's not like Canelo is all-time great, you know, which he's a very good fighter, but those guys don't have what it takes in a big setting like that to beat a guy like Canelo. They might fight, all of those guys that I just mentioned may wind up fighting like Callum Smith, and we blame Canelo. We can't do that because it's not Canelo's fault that those guys don't fight get caught up like a deer in headlights. But Caleb Plant just doesn't have the experience or the moxie, the commitment, and daring to be great. And I've been saying it many times, it takes a lot more than skills when you do it on a big stage, man. It's all about intangibles. You know, after the fight, he wasn't give me Canelo. He wasn't that. He was saying, oh, you know, I'll take on any 168 pound. I'm the best. And I noticed with him, Andrade, and even Charlo, they don't really aggressively call out Canelo. They just, you know, I'll take on anybody. And, you know, it's like they don't want to step on a landmine or something. So I don't know, man. I just see weaknesses with those guys, and they're not ready yet. That's just my opinion.
Well, you know, that's a strong point that you mentioned there, Kurt. And what I would like to do is follow up on that with my thoughts. But let me go to the chat real quick because we had a lot of comments regarding Caleb. Let's go to Renee Box Young. He says, Caleb is not ready for Videz or Canelo, man. And he says, I was really disappointed in him tonight. I appreciate his skills, but expected a lot more. Ricky E245 says, Renee Box Young, both of them beat Plant right now. And Renee came back with Truax is quite out of his prime, slow, and I thought Caleb was going to do a lot better. And he is agreeing with Ricky and says, Benavidez would put pressure and bring the hard smoke on Plant. And he's strong. PGH Big Dog is out there. He's saluting. Harold Jones says Plant looks like he's working on rolling and shooting. To do that, he could benefit with some schooling from Floyd Sr. for a few months. No, we're tired of seeing that, as you know, Lala D would affectionately say, that GD shoulder roll. We're tired of seeing it. There are other things he can learn and fare quite better than doing that, because he's getting hit clean as it is. Anyway, let me finish greeting these people, because I got something to say about what Kurt was saying. And PGH Big Dog, the chat jumped up again on me. He says, Plant did what he had to do. He shook off some rust and dominated the fight. The man broke his hand and still dominated. Maybe it just hurt his hand. Maybe it's not really broke. Lawrence Williams out there says, what's good? And Sylvestrine is out there, says, Stormy was popping. Lawrence Williams says, Coffee versus Gerald Washington would be the perfect for the Hellenius and Kalinaki 2 card, March 6th on Fox. Tell you guys that Lawrence is the resident stat man. He be having it, man. He know these fights and dates, man. Sheldon Holmes is saluting with Kurt and saying he agrees. And Chamilitary Seawall Mob says Plant lacks speed and power, Kurt. And we've got quite a bit of people who are signing on that they're not feeling that Plant is up to snuff. My thoughts are, Kurt, when you said you can't put your finger on it about Plant, what's missing? This is what I think is missing from him. He doesn't have another gear. He doesn't. And he's skillful. But just being skillful at the top of the game is not enough. You have to be able to change your levels. I did a Tuesday tussle on that recently. You have to be able to change your levels. You have to be able to turn up the heat and put the pressure on someone to either take them out, make them quit, break them down totally, that they are no longer in the fight. Case in point, let's reflect on Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Now, the consensus was he didn't have a lot of power, but Pernell Whitaker hit a lot harder than people thought he did, but he had A+ boxing skills and ability. But he was so good with his skill set that once he got ahead of a guy in a fight, the fight was over. Pernell rarely lost rounds. He rarely lost rounds. In a 12-round fight, he's usually winning 8 or 9 rounds. And that's because the first couple of rounds, he's just trying to figure that guy out, make an assessment on what he's able to do, and he takes his strengths away from him immediately, you know, after that point. So as we talk about what's missing from Caleb Plant, he doesn't have another gear. He can box you well. He can put hands on you, tap you, touch you, and everything, but you don't have to be threatened about being stopped by him. And he's kind of there for receipts. Truax is the kind of guy that should not have been able to hit him as cleanly as he was hitting him in this fight. And I heard Reggie talking about it. And he kept saying, like, man, this guy's getting hit with some solid shots, you know? So just think about it in the sense of if that was Benavidez or if it was Canelo, which Canelo is not the most powerful puncher, but he's a sharp puncher and he still has heavy hands. So he could still knock your block off. But think about it in those terms. And Kurt, you tell me now that I've offered that up, what you think about what I had to say.
Yeah, he doesn't have another gear, but it's something more profound. I don't think he is good as I thought he was, and he's not as good of a boxer. He can look good against the Mike Lees and the Caleb Truaxes of the world, but with this sport we call boxing, there's levels to this game. I've yet to see him, man. He fought Uskatiku. He slows down sometimes. He got hit with a flush uppercut. That should never happen. He's trying to use, just because you're a boxer, they have the mindset, I can use the shoulder roll. You're not Floyd Mayweather. That you're not. You're a long way. You're 100 light years away, and every light year is 1,000 years. So, he's not. But I don't know. Is he? I'm just something just not there. It's more than him having just one gear. And like I said, I could see certain fighters and their talents would jump out at me. I'll be like, oh man, that guy gonna be something. I look at Jaron Ennis and I have that attitude where when the bell goes ding for the first round, I'm on the edge of my seat. And I said, let me see what Caleb Plant looks like tonight. Let me really look at him closely. And I'll see him fight a million times, and no way he should fight Canelo. So it was smart for him to turn the fight down because he would have been slaughtered. He's not being Canelo with that kind of performance. I don't think he's ready. I think he's like, you throw some turkey in the oven and you take it out and the meat is still red on the inside. It has to go back in the oven for another 35 minutes, and that's Caleb Plant. Because if he fights Canelo, he will beat Turkey. So, he has to be more active. You have to be active, and so you can get better. You're not going to get better by fighting once a year and fighting low-level competition.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I just said what I said as, attaching that to what you said that's missing. That was my observation of it. I'm not saying that's the only problem. Like someone was saying that he would benefit by working with Floyd Sr. with that shoulder roll crap. I wish that people would get off of that, man, because the man was already getting hit clean by Truax, who is not the most fierce of guys, who is a little bit faded, pardon my saying so, but it is true, and is not highly skilled or a dangerous puncher. Think about it. If he's getting hit by someone who is strong, who is youthful, like a Benavidez or whatever, he's in trouble. I could see Benavidez walking him down, wearing him down, and stopping him late because he's not going to get a chance to box him. That man's going to cut the ring off on him. He's going to use his strength, and it's going to wear over time. You saw he got out of this fight with a hurt hand, hitting on a guy that he could sit up in the bleachers and throw a beer bottle in the ring and still hit him. Where was Truax getting out of the way of his shots or being able to absorb them if they're not damaging and come forward? He was busting up, so it was enough to hurt him, but that's not going to hurt someone like Benavidez. And Canelo has too much seasoning as far as being a fighter who can get out of the way of punches, And frankly, from what I saw, where was that footwork and everything that he's supposed to have? Because Truax was right there with him, but he just couldn't do much. He just didn't have much to offer. And that speaks volumes about who the opposition is, who you're looking at him beat up. It's time for him to step up to another level and fight another one of these younger guys out here. It doesn't have to be Jamal Charlo or someone like that, but maybe Darrell or something like that. It would probably be a better fight because that's someone who would be closer, who has more ability to offer and has something that's going to come back at him and he not be the show. Reggie, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I got to disagree with y'all, OGs. I'm sorry, I got to disagree. I think he is ready, and I think the thing is that he needs fights that force him to pull into a higher level, force him to change gears in a fight. These level fights, he has to move well beyond them because he's going in here and these guys aren't offering anything to him. The most he got out of doing this fight is a fight. The fact that he got a lot of rounds in. He was able to get all these rounds in, get 12 rounds of action. The next step is to go in here and fight a top guy. He got to fight Benavidez or Canelo. It's not a fight he's going to go in there and lay down to those dudes. It's a fight that's going to pull every ounce of what Caleb Plant really is. And he can showcase in that style. Canelo has issue with guys who can present what Caleb Plant can possibly present. Great movement, agility, quick hands. He has great quick hands. His combinations come in well. He mixes them well. And it's not so much of a thing having to stop these guys. You've seen where Floyd wasn't known for being such a great puncher, but sometimes other guys on the other side don't like what they're being hit with and they refuse to return things. That's the possibility what Caleb Plant can deliver to a lot of these guys is quick hand shots that keep a lot of these guys' hands stuck in their pocket and leaving them thinking, trying to land one or two big time punches, heavy power handed punches. So that's the thing. He's a champion. We can't say that he needs extra fights or he's not ready for this guy. That's the thing. Go in there. It's win or lose. And that's what boxing has to be about. He touched the belt. It's time for him to make a fight. Canelo and him can't be measuring out guys and talking about they're not ready for this and that. No, go in there and make the fight. These guys are calling you out. You see they have the skills. They possess the talent. These guys below what level you're at aren't even competition for the guys. So it's time for you to go in there and crush the dude if that's the way you feel about him. So I have to disagree. He's a champion. He's shown that these guys at this level, he has defeated them. So Benavidez, even though losing the title, he hasn't lost inside the ring. He's going inside of his fights, and he's been washing through everyone that's out there, except Darrell gave him major issues. And with Caleb Plant's style, could it give Benavidez issues? It's a possibility. Watch how Benavidez fought against Ronald Gabriel. When you dig deep on David Benavidez, he sometimes have a little issue, and Gabriel fight really showed that. Not so much of the second fight, but that first fight, it really showed in that one. And even what Gabriel was able to do to him, just sticking with the jab, moving on him, it created issues, major issues for Benavidez before the cut opened up. And I think I heard him speak about that on Fred's show as well. But it's time for them to fight. Ain't no dragging that out. Ain't no wasting it. Ain't no talks of this guy needing to improve. Champion versus champion. But that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Want to take a moment to go back to the chat. Salute to Hustler's Home out there. He says, hit that like button. Appreciate you, bro, with your donation from the super chat, man. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Yeah, and Mr. Shelton offered up, Reggie. He said, nobody is saying that Plant couldn't fight. And I'll co-sign on that. We're not saying that he can't fight. We're not saying that there aren't fighters out there that he can beat at a higher level than who he fought tonight. What we were talking about, and I think I can speak for Kurt on this, is we were just being critical of some things that are not missing. That doesn't mean he can't develop. That doesn't mean that he's not going to be able to showcase some things. But you do have to come away with a proper assessment of who he was in there with tonight. And the guy he was in there with tonight didn't have a lot to offer. And he was there for Plant to look good against, and for Plant to come out of this night being shown to the public that at 168 pounds, he's a guy to be reckoned with or whatever, and through PBC and all of that. It was his night. It was his dance. It was his birthday party, so to speak. But there are people out there that he could face, and we'll find out more. I think what Kurt was saying, and I don't want to speak for Kurt. Kurt can speak for himself. But what I was saying is that I think that even in a tough, grueling fight where his boxing skills are not something that he's going to be able to rely upon, what else can he do to win a fight against a young man like himself, or even younger, or just a couple of years older, who's not faded and who's aggressive, who wants the title, who wants to be a champion and things like that? Then we will see. But I do believe that third tier and second tier opposition, he can have his way with some men out there in the division. But in the long run, we're going to see some problems. And I do believe that, because I was listening to you talk about him getting hit clean late in the fight. You weren't saying it early. Remember, I'm buffering, so I wasn't able to see the action live and witness everything. But I was listening to you, and you kept saying it. And I'm like, well, Truax is not really that big puncher. He's not that guy that's going to be taking people out and whatnot. So it's like, what if that was someone else? What if that was a guy who could really crack? If it was a Charlo or someone like that or whatever, then he might be in some serious trouble. And for someone who could cut that ring off and get on top of him, it would provide him with some problems, and we would have to see how he'll deal with them. That's what I was offering. Fellas?
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to Kurt. Oh, there you go. There you go to OG.
Either one of you could comment on that, Or
I'm gonna say this. I done seen fighters where they thought they was ready, and as your trainer is up to you to use your better discretion. Say no, not yet. And you're not holding the fighter back, but you want to give your fighter the best opportunity to win. There was a fighter named Davey Moore who didn't have a lot of fights, and he thought he was ready. He went to Japan, he knocked out the Japanese guy to become world champion, and he was set to fight a legend, and Roberto Duran. He was like, Duran is past it. He vehemently underestimated Duran, and at the same time, overestimated his skills, and he got the brakes beat off him, because he thought he was ready and he wasn't ready. And Canelo too. You could say that Canelo against Mayweather, even though he had all those fights, it was plain to see he just wasn't ready. And the point I'm trying to make, when you look at Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson, those guys are getting by on talent alone. They haven't fought a lot of good guys yet. And Plant, and even though he's 28, he should be further along. So I blame his management team and Plant too. But Andre Durrell got a fight coming up next month. If Durrell wins, Plant should get as many fights in as possible and fight a guy like Durrell, because Durrell brings experience, and that will make Plant seasoned if he get past Durrell. That's a good fight for Caleb Plant. It's a name established guy who was a former champion, and it's very rare you just, you throw a fight out there, he's going to sink and swim. They did it with Floyd Mayweather, excuse me. They did it with Floyd Mayweather against Chiquinito Hernandez, and Floyd passed the test. But most of the time, the fighters are not ready, and they can use some more experience and seasoning. And we're in a microwave era where, people, they want the big bucks and they want the stardom. But can you imagine Plant and Haney and Shakur Stevenson a couple of years from now? They'd be even better. But I blame Plant because he's already 28. He should be way further along, but he doesn't fight. And, he's being set up, with weak opposition. Now, he get in there, with Canelo in, let's say, September, and he gets mollywopped and knocked out and not even close, then people are going to say, you know what, he should have been fighting better competition. He just wasn't ready for the big time. It's not only the fighter, but the stage. Can you honestly say that a Plant will perform great if he has that big stage against Canelo? I can see disaster for him. I can see it in my crystal ball. He will not win. I'll pass him, Mike.
And I want to say salute to the chat. I'm sorry, I want to say this real quick. Salute to the chat, man, for hanging in there with us, because I think that the blizzard that we're having here in the Chi is affecting the Wi-Fi, because it's, everything in the house is good to go and everything. But I did say earlier we were having this snowstorm. So just bear with us on that. We're going to keep the stream going, and there's nothing I could do about the external aspect of what we're dealing with. But, it may be on a little bit of a delay or whatever, but just hang tight with us for that. Go ahead, Reggie, what you were going to say.
It's stabilized. It started to stabilize. But back to that one, like, even if Canelo spanks Plant, that's part of the game, and that's what we want to see. All this pushing it back and waiting for him to develop. What if this is at the peak of what Plant possesses? Canelo needs these type of names. Nobody wants to wait for that. These are champions. And that's my thing with like these titles. For fighters, if they're not fully developed, they should never be given opportunities to touch belts. And if a fighter is rushing the gun to touch a title, he's stating that he's ready for everyone that's out there. And Plant has to. Darrell has to pull himself back up. If that fight presents itself, that's what Plant needs to go after, because it's only so long before your position as a champion runs out. Not to say every fighter is going to pull off a Floyd Mayweather undefeated type career, Andre Ward type undefeated career. He has to get in there, and Canelo needs these names. Canelo needs hungry fighters. Canelo's fighting everybody who ain't calling him out, and that's a travesty for the sport. He's fighting everybody who's not calling him out. And it's time for Canelo to start going in here and show us that he can whoop all these dudes. And I believe Canelo can probably whoop all these dudes. Even though I want to see Caleb Plant beat Canelo, but I highly doubt that can happen. The same thing with Charlo. I don't think Charlo can go in there and beat Canelo, but they will dig super, super deep to fighting these dudes, and it will bring the best out of them if they go in there against Canelo. These guys they fighting, there's no reason for them to dig deep. They're watching through them, styling on them, going in here, greater efforts against the opponents if it is a tough fight, being with Charlo and Derevyanchenko. But it's time for them to fight, and win or lose, that's the aspect that has to happen in boxing. Being undefeated and trying to ensure you have the advantages is trash to me. They have to do it. And Canelo's getting old, so it's like, why wait for Canelo and then that'll be the excuse? Oh, you fought an old past prime Canelo. Like, no, they gotta duke it out, man. But that's my thought.
Yeah, and again, if we start putting the pressure on these guys that we want to see them fight somebody, like, okay, for Caleb, right? No more of these, what do you call them, TRUAXs. No more of them. We need to see him in there with somebody now. You got a belt, and I know he got a hurt hand now. He's got to get healed up and everything. But it's time for him to pick up the pace, man, and we'll see what he does. As far as Canelo, he is almost at that point now with, like, Manny Pacquiao, where Manny is deep in this point of the career that he wants to make money fights with low risk and thing like that. But it's like, oh man, you ain't getting off like that. Either retire and get out of here or fight somebody and be knocked out of here. But no, it's too much of this effery out here that these guys are not competing at the highest level that they could possibly compete. We're not seeing enough of the quality matches. We're not seeing these men challenge themselves or one another. And it's kind of sickening, really. to see, you know, that the best of what the sport has to offer isn't even being placed before us. It's not even being considered, you know, and it's just time. And we have to talk about that, you know. Turn the heat up on them. Let's see somebody jump out of the pot because the boiling water got too hot for them. But we need that more than anything. And I think that the fights that'll be coming up ahead, there'll be some more showcase fights, and we have to talk about that. We have to say it for what it is. You're beating up on guys you're supposed to beat up on. Let's see you fight somebody that could fight back. Huh? And when you hold people accountable in that respect, then you could really see where a person's abilities are. But they're masking it, and as long as the public buys into it and supports it and be distracted with the focus of talking about purses and who's an A side and all of that, you know, it's going to continue to be this way. But you have to really have a demand for better. And if you don't have that demand, you're not going to receive it. You know, you're not going to receive it. So, but yeah, and salute to Reggie in the super chat. He says, jab that like button one time. That's right. Let's get those likes up. You know, everybody's out there listening to us this evening, and show a little support by hitting that like button. You know what I mean? You don't just be listening. Show some support for the channel. But what else you have on it, Kurt? I know you were saying you weren't going to stay long.
Well, when I say Canelo will beat the field, you know, it's because these fighters are not seasoned. And the guy that has the skills to beat them, they're past their prime, like a Kovalev, or it can be lack of intangibles. Now, you know, Plant is 28. You know, Charlo, Andrade, I just don't, they did a disservice to themselves by their career not fighting the top names. I mean, Charlo, you know, he beat Deverenchenko, you know, but he should jump right back in the ring. See, in boxing, you have to ride the momentum. When you win a big fight, you have to ride that wave, and you will automatically get better. That's how boxing works. You know, but they'll take 8-9 months off, and they have to reset and start all over again. And it might be somebody like Dennis Hogan, and then you'll get a call to fight at Canelo, and you're not ready because you're not seasoned. Your career didn't go the way it's supposed to have went, and you know, and Canelo beat you. You not only that, you freeze up. You know, and I know a lot of people like Charlo, but you know, I don't think he's going to beat Canelo because I don't like the way his career has gone, and Andrade the same way, you know, and Plant, he's heading down that same street, you know, and when you beat a guy like Canelo, or a top-notch fight, I should say, it's because your career didn't go the way you wanted to go. You got to fight tough contenders, and when you look at fighters who's had successful career, they done fought tough guys and different styles. That's how you make a fighter. That's how you test your fighter. And like Berlanga, he knocked out 16 nobodies, and he may fight Gabe Rosado and get outboxed because the level of opposition. It looks good to us because we like, wow, he got another knockout in the first round. But in hindsight and the long run, it's not good. You know, it's not good. But if they put him in there with Gabe Rosado, that's a good test for him. I think Mike Tyson benefited from going the distance with James Quick Tillers. And that was on purpose. That's what you got to do. Always put a young fighter in with a seasoned fighter. He may be past his prime, or he may be teetering on that, you know, not being in his prime. And you put him in there so you could test your fighter. Like Devin Haney, you know, against Gamboa. I thought it was good for Haney going 12 rounds because he needed the rounds. He needed experience, and you know, and that right there helps a fighter develop very quickly.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And when we saw Rosado in there with Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs lost that fight, man. And Rosado, because of his record, people will be fooled into thinking that he may be like TRUAX, right? But TRUAX is a much below that level fighter. And that's not disrespect. That's an honest assessment. Because as Kurt said earlier in the show, there are levels to this. And when you see a guy like TRUAX, you know he's going to give you rounds. He's going to be in there thick, and he's not just going to lay down, right? Okay. But when you move a fighter like that, because there are a number of fighters out there like that, then you got guys who will quit. Things get a little rough in there, and they'll say, that's it for me tonight. I'm going to pack it in. You move those guys to the side. Then you get to that next level where you got guys in there, they're tired of suffering losses. They've had a couple of decisions go a different way, and they have competed enough and taken losses that they've learned something. That's the Rosados of the sport. And one of these days he's going to beat somebody. Well, I felt he beat Danny Jacobs, and he should have gotten that decision. But as I sidetracked myself on the statement I was going to make, because this is what happens when the consequences take place of a person not getting awarded the victory they should have gotten. They don't get to move up. They don't get to move up, and because they earned it. Can you imagine? You've worked 2 weeks on your job, and it's time for payday, and they don't pay you. You got bills, you got groceries, you know, it's like, what? Where's my check? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And we're not talking about fair play. The man earned that victory. He beat Danny Jacobs. I will say it until I have no breath left in my body. He beat him. So imagine if they had awarded him the decision, right? As Kurt mentioned him as a great potential future opponent for Caleb Plant, he would definitely be in that type of consideration because he had that type of victory. Now, they may look at him in a different manner because of the number of losses on his record, but they better not try to take that situation on and be disrespectful of the man's experience that he has. Because, Reggie, you were talking about him getting hit with those right hands, right? If that's Gabe Rosado in there, what's going to happen? Now, I'm not saying that Gabe Rosado is a knockout puncher. What I am saying is he has enough experience on how to capture the rounds. Capturing the rounds and capturing the judge's attention is important. And maybe because of what happened in the Danny Jacobs fight, he might fight with just a little more spirit and take just that many more risks in the fight. There's something to think about. What do you guys have to say about that?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Kurt. Go ahead, OG. Go ahead.
No, good. You can go ahead.
No, I was going to say what Kurt was saying about the Berlanga situation, being how Berlanga's in a situation where he's going in here getting all these knockouts, and that can be something that work against a fighter like there, going in here against lay down type opposition. And that's what they're building them up as. But they can also do the right thing of putting Berlanga in here with the appropriate ways of building himself up. He has where there's many of these champions are not champions, but former title contenders and this and that who are kind of on the downside of their careers and kind of well past primes, that they can go in here with Berlanga to get him in there with a fighter that has that experience, but is not truly that much of a threat, but still poses, significant challenges in the fight. That's the appropriate way to build Berlanga up, to really test to see where he is and let him gain the experience of being in there with more experienced fighters, see what's out there before sending him into title contention. Because with him getting all these knockouts against the type of people he's fighting, his level of arrogance, there are going to be challenges coming because you already got Benavidez calling out for a challenge for him. And is that too much for a guy like Berlanga to chew off on? He may have to slow his roll. He looks good against the guys that he's in there stopping, but he don't want to let them knockouts. Being a knockout type fighter is sometimes something that fools a lot of fighters, because everybody ain't these cats that you have knocked out or who have laid down to you. These other guys moving up top, they go through wars. They go through hell before you get them up out of there. And how does that work from knockout fighters, people who just rely on one punch? You watch a lot of these dudes go through second guessing themselves because they have no other plan B type strategies. If they have a plan B, there's no plan C, and there's no plan D. And they begin to mentally fade away. So Berlanga has to take opportunities of being in the division where there's some great competition, some great figuring things out before he goes up making too quick of a move up to fighting some of these champions if he's not ready. So he's still young, so he has the time to develop and become a great champion. But Rosario will be a great challenge for this dude. Definitely a great challenge for Berlanga to see where he's at. And even what's that dude who gave Benavidez a challenge? I forgot what Lawrence Williams put it in there. Graville. Ronald Graville gives a great opportunity for him as well to get Berlanga in there to test where he's at. But that's the type of thing that Berlanga should do. Not rush his career at this moment. Not get too excited by what he's looking like, because right now they just building him up on some Rocky type stuff, putting him in there with guys he's supposed to, knowing that he's a powerful guy, he has a good punch, and it's time to showcase it with one step up. Don't make the mistake that who was that dude that took a major step up? Anthony Yard. Do not make one of them Anthony Yard type mistakes. Don't make a Fernando Vargas type mistake, rushing to get to a title too fast when you're not fully developed. He has to get someone in here who's going to test him a little bit. And if he gets to certain dudes who are known to be warriors and go through hard wars and he's knocking them out, then yeah, he may be there. And that's when he can test himself to taking the next step forward. But he has so much attention on him that he'll be barking up to, he's going to have recognition on him to be barking for championship fights. But him and his team better make sure he's ready. And it's not so much of money opportunities, because you rush into money, it may end up being there. That short-term stuff will cut your pockets short as well. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I want to take a moment to acknowledge another super chat donation that came in from Ricky E 245. Appreciate you, bro, putting that super chat out there and supporting the channel, man. And there are some interesting comments. It's like too many of them. They're rolling in. It's like Stormy got to get used to the family coming in and being engaged. But just as I said, I'm not ignoring anyone, but I know between, with Kurt cooking and Reggie cooking, and I'm following the chat. But Lawrence Williams, salute to Lawrence out there. He says that Lara may be moving up to 160. That's interesting right there. I know that Lara is a little long in the tooth, but that's something to be thinking about, because if he moves up, he can get a couple of fights at that weight, And who else? There was someone else that mentioned something. The Sweet Science Examiner says, he said, I'd much rather see Alvarez versus Durrell than Alvarez versus Smith or Alvarez versus Yildirim. Talking about Andre Durrell and Canelo. That's an interesting fight, because that's somebody who's going to fight Canelo. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean he's going to beat him. It doesn't mean Canelo going to beat him. But it's more of a competitive fight when you know the nature of the fighter and how he operates. Durrell he's going to compete. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we really want. We want to see someone in competitive matches. You can still have your favorite guy, but we want to see your favorite guy in a competitive match. How many matches really are very competitive? Not a lot. There are some that are entertaining. There are some that provide us with what we like to see, and that might be good movement, hand speed, footwork, power, things like that. But when somebody is actually really, competing for that, that to cross the finish line first and be the one to get that decision, we're not seeing that a lot anymore. And we got to get that back. And this is why I continue to sound the siren of getting on these guys about that. Our voices matter, man. They matter. What we say, what we think, what we produce when we have these shows. These guys are out there listening to us, you know, and they think, and sometimes they're like, that's a good point. Even if it's something critical, they may not say it, they might not write in the chat, but they take it back to the gym with themselves and they say, you know what? Hey, so-and-so made a great point. This is not trying to dog anyone. That's just like when I was saying earlier about Caleb's shortcomings. That's not to dog him. That's having critique. But I respect him. I did a video on the guy and I talked about how much I liked him. But it's like, it's time to see him break from that level where he is into a newer level. And then he can only do that by taking on certain opponents who are going to bring something out of him. Not more of what he had tonight, you know. So, but yeah, anybody got something? Kurt, you got something?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get off. See, Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence are two of the top fighters in boxing because they have fought top level competition, and you can see the improvement, especially with Jermell Charlo. He fought Harrison twice, and then he went to Jason Rosario, who was riding the momentum off his knockout of J-Rock. And he probably fight the winner of Teixeira and Castano. You know, that's why he's sharp. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I said, Charlo, you know, is benefiting, you know, from boxing because he's fighting his skills, because he's fighting top level competition. That fight was made very quickly with Jason Rosario, you know, and Charlo looked good. And you know, once it, you know, I mean, I don't mind him taking a soft touch or maybe a mandatory or voluntary defense, but his last three fights has been against top level competition. He already beat Erickson Lubin and Charles Hatley, so he had some good wins. And they're getting tougher, and he's passing the test. Errol Spence, you know, came from a debilitating car accident, and he used Danny Garcia as his tune-up. This is a former world champion, and he beat the brakes off Danny Garcia. So those two guys, their careers are going the right way, and they ride the momentum off tough competition, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And you see how sharp they are. You know, they're sharp. They skills, man, because of this. When you fight weak competition, it's not going to help you. You know, in hindsight, it's going to hinder you. So, you know, that's all I have to say, man. And, you know, you got a good audience, Stormy, man, and, you know, late night stream. But I'm going to get ready to go to bed. And I will see you guys, Reggie and Stormy, in chat. And, you know, hey, we got a lot of fights coming up, man. And, you know, can't wait. So with that, you know, I'm going to say, you know, everybody have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Salute, OG.
Thanks, Kurt, for stopping by and blessing us with your critique on the sport, man. Appreciate that. And salute to Jay Gibson in the super chat, and he's giving us the bombs and the fist in the boxing glove, Reggie, with a crown. We appreciate all of that, man. Appreciate all of that. But let's get to the other match, Reggie, that was showcased in this fight. I like the fact that we, you know, just kept it, you know, on Plant and Truax and what's happening with those guys mostly, but take a small moment to mention the fight that took place between the heavyweights, Coffee and Rock. Now, as I was writing in your chat, you know, I don't like seeing these really out of shape heavyweights. And to my understanding, we had more of the same last night. But man, if you're not going to get in shape, you don't need to get in the ring. I remember working with guys in the mid 90s. And one of the things, like when I had taken on a new person, one of the things that, guys always want to jump right in there and start sparring, right? Especially if they've never really boxed before. And I had a regimen that, like, 30 days, I don't put a guy in the ring. I show him all of the floor exercises and the work that he needs to do to work on things before even putting him in there. And I had a lot of complaining from those guys because they just thought boxing was about putting the gloves on and the headgear and your protector and your mouthpiece, and you get in there and you go for it. Well, there were a lot of gyms around, town here in the Shire that you could do that, right? But when you put someone in that situation and they put you in there with a guy that knows what he's doing and he's been in the gym, he could beat the fight out of you because you realize that you don't know what you're doing and he does. And forever your confidence will not be where it could be because you're not really fully capable. And that was a philosophy I had. And for the guys who stuck to it and stuck with it, they later came back and showed a great deal of appreciation to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's been revealed that, I know Fred's a Kendo, and I had a guy that I was training that would spar with Fred because Fred had won the Nationals and the Golden Gloves and everything. He hadn't turned pro yet. And my guy that I put in there with Fred's, some days we'd have, gym exercises and whatnot. And Fred say, hey, your guy want to work today? And I say, no, not today, And Donnell Nicholson was in the gym. He was like, hey, your guy want some work? No, not today. And initially they were thinking like, oh, I was just keeping him from them, or whatever. But I was working on some things with him to provide him with a level of comfort so when he got in there, he could take care of himself. Not that he beat them up because they were far more experienced than this guy that I was working with, Russell. And what happened was when he got in there, he was able to handle himself a great deal more than when they were initially asking. And he felt better. We had conversation, dialogue where he was like, man, I could see my growth. I could see, different things. And he was like, I'm feeling really good about what we're doing. You see? That's like you're laying the groundwork. So there's a path to be walked. You're not just pushing someone out there. And tonight, those guys look like somebody just said, hey, put these gloves on and put this mouthpiece in and put a protector on and go on out there, man, and see what we can do. That's what they look like. Both of them. And did they look like really in shape? I mean, one of them looked like he has some musculature, but it's like that doesn't mean anything because boxers don't have to be muscular to be good. You know what I'm saying? But as you were calling that, Reggie, it was like, and I could see some of it because, like I said, streams buffering, and maybe that's why because it's snowstorm. But it's like I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, I'm not loving this at all. It's like, wow. And I didn't even bother to look into the Bermain-Stavern fight for last night because I don't even want to see that. Who wants to see guys with their bellies falling over their protectors and stuff like that? And the guy we said tonight looked like he had 3 butts. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. But go ahead, Reggie. What do you got on it?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And like somebody had put in the stream during that earlier, like there should be limits for heavyweights. Like, and I think what they mean is there should be limits on how a fighter needs to present himself. Looking all sloppy like that, like I call them soup sandwiches. Those in the military probably used to hearing a drill sergeant say that. Looked like a loaf of bread that was left in water. I mean, that's how these dudes look. The dude had he had two asses on him. He had his lower back looked like his butt, and then he had his regular butt. That's how unconditioned the dude was. It was bad, and it's bad seeing heavyweights look like the same thing from Stavern and Trevor Bryan. I want to talk on that one after this, but the other guy coming in and looking in better shape, but he looked more like he was in football shape. Being muscular like that does nothing for you in a fight. Yeah, if you grappling, probably tossing somebody, flipping them and stuff like that, maybe it works for you in that way if you can grab a person. But going in here against somebody who can push a dude with that kind of muscle on them, you're going to get dusted off. And that's and seeing that this guy just looked for one shot. He did get the knockout, but he's in here against a guy who shouldn't even been sanctioned to fight, not looking like this. Commissioner should just looked at what's his name? Damani Rock. Commissioner should have looked at him and took his license. Like, man, you better go get in better shape than coming in the ring looking like that. And it does nothing for the heavyweight division. This is why you don't have too much excitement except for the probably the top four guys up there, because anytime someone turns on a TV and they're seeing heavyweights that look like this, how are they going to be entertained and want to watch this? They like, these dudes don't take the dang they craft serious. Why am I watching this? And that's what happened. Then you get heavyweights that sit in front of each other because they throw 3 punches and now they must catch their breath. Like, these dudes got to bring a better presentation to the sport, to what is supposed to be the division that really captivates an audience, and that's being heavyweights. They got to come in and look better than that. Physique ain't everything, but at least tighten up. Like, at least tighten up. And then when you seen the dude after he got knocked down and he going to get back up, you watch his stomach turn into like 3 rolls. Like, it's like three Pillsbury rolls, like the tubes and stuff. Like, man, what the heck going on, man? Like, you can't come in this chubby. Like, I mean, and then it shows inside that ring of, you know, you can't count everybody who looks, you know, overweight and that they can't fight. But in the ring, it showed. And the other dude, he just stood there holding in his posture, standing in his pose, just looking to throw one shot. He got in there, but if this guy's looking to climb up, he can't hold his hands in his pocket looking for one shot like that, because he comes in, you know, being you know, physically strong looking, but you're gonna get in here with somebody that's gonna let hands go, can punch you out at a different range. If you ain't able to step up on the tempo because you're carrying the wrong kind of muscle on you and physique, you're going to get dusted off as well. And you may not be able to touch everybody with just the one single shot. This dude, Rock, was having success going in there at that moment, but walking forward, trying to lean down, laying forward at that dude, and got his jaw detached. But it's a sad affair when you're seeing heavyweights that's looking like this coming into these fights.
And I want to say this. We got a couple of comments in the chat that I wanted to go. Mr. De Niro says Rock should have had a sports bra on, y'all. Yeah. And that's not like a bad comment, because it's true. And salute to Eric R. says, salute chat family. I just want to stop by, smash the like button to show support. I'm going to play it back later. Movie time with the missus. Appreciate you, Eric R., because I know you do come out and you support the channel. Harold Jones says, yep, dudes don't spend the time to learn the basics before stepping in the ring. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's all I was trying to stress. But this is the comment here. It's like, as we get to these others, Samuel Demis says, if you are on TV, you got to walk in with at least a 2-pack. He said, for pride's sake. And Lawrence Williams, salute to L-Dub, he says, Coffee 270 tonight is about right for him. He's usually 265, 270 on the regular. No, that's because he liked to eat, man. He liked to eat. He liked to eat more than he liked boxing. And I'm going to prove it to you. That guy was at least 45 pounds overweight. Okay? His weight, looking at his body structure and his bone density, he looks like he should have been about 218 to 225 for this fight, for any of his matches. That's in shape. If you put him in that type of shape, he'll be strong, he'll have endurance, he'll be able to have tremendous conditioning, he'll look like a total different man, and he'll feel like a total different fighter and will perform like a total different fighter. He's not a big bone guy. He's a fat dude. Get in shape, stop playing around out there, and he probably went to dinner more than anything after the fight. He couldn't wait to go eat. But I'm going to tell you something. When you sacrifice, okay, And when you deprive yourself of things, it'll make you hungrier for success. It's hard to get hungry for success when you got a triple cheeseburger sitting right there. He looked like Riddick Bowe when Riddick Bowe got out of shape. If you look at Riddick Bowe when he was in shape, you see him as a different fighter when he was like 225 pounds, under 230, 228, something like that. Riddick Bowe looked like a new car. When he started going over 250 and stuff like that, he looked like the old jalopy. Exactly. So it's, don't make excuses for these dudes. You know what I'm saying? It's like you gotta trim that. That's how you know they're going to work, man. That's how you know when they've sacrificed. These guys ain't sacrificing nothing. And you look at him and it's like, oh my God. And every time he turned his back to the camera, I was turning my head away from the TV like this. I don't want to see the dude look like he had 3 butts. And 2 of them wasn't exposed. How you got indentations of fat in the back of your back, man, in the center, where you look like you're the crack of your behind? No, man. Out of shape, man. And overweight. And this is why boxing is like it is, because people are accepting of it. It's like, oh yeah, well that's a good weight for him. Bull crap. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. And think about it like this: he got a trainer, right? What kind of trainer is that? Putting him out there like that. Bermane Stiverne has been getting bigger and bigger every fight. The dude is like growing. It's like he ain't even trying to come down. He'll go into training, he lose 5 pounds or something, and then still come out there looking like he just got off the sofa? No, man, I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting it. I want higher caliber fights. You look back into the 80s and you see the guys who had real potential and were skilled and who were still out of shape and made it as champions and stuff. Guys like Tony Tubbs, guys like Michael Dokes, and those guys, they had problems outside the ring, but they were very skilled. Could you imagine what they could have been if they didn't have those problems that allowed to take away from what they... Now, everybody's not going to look like Frank Bruno, right? And Bruno was what they call a sculpted Adonis. But you don't have to look like Harry Hippo either. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. What you got, Reg?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And these top guys don't look like that. Even Tyson Fury knew to trim the stuff up off of him when he came back. I mean, you got to come in with some standard of how you present yourself, because, like you said, it ain't about being sculpted, like you're saying with the Frank Bruno thing, but it's showing that you're putting something into preparation for it. Your body tells itself, oh, this dude is really preparing himself for something. Let's shed off all this storage. And that's all fat is storage, because you're sitting on the couch like me, storing it, and it sits there. If you ain't really in the camp, it fades off, it trims off. And even like, because my brother Lawrence was saying about, what's the name, Rock was one fight away from making to the Olympics. That's sad, because that shows just how shallow the American talent pool is and why America's not winning anything Olympic wise. Why our teams are why our teams are unable to perform at that level. If Rock is what they have as far as representation, it's a bad sign. And Rock could have changed things by being more active, or not, even if you're not fighting, just staying active in the gym. There's one dude from out the UFC I always remember. What was his name? Dominic Cruz, who always stated he don't believe in ring rust. He don't buy into that excuse, because even if you're not active, you staying in shape, living the life of a fighter, staying in the gym, training on things, you don't have to worry about these things. And a lot of these dudes ain't doing none of that. A lot of these dudes don't even visit a gym. Oh, I ain't got a fight. Oh, ain't nothing scheduled. Okay, what's popping for the club tonight? Okay, oh, we up in there. Oh, where the hoes at? Oh, Oh, they in room what? Okay, we up in there. And that's what they doing outside of not having fights. They enjoying the accesses that bring no value into keeping the money rolling. Because at some point, man, all that other stuff they be entertained by, that stuff is always there. The club is gonna always be there on Saturday, every Saturday. The women gonna be there until your heart stop ticking. So I mean, you gotta pick and choose what it is. The food gonna always be there. Food get cooked every day, probably 3-4 times a day. You can put a plate away. I mean, if this is what pays you, being an athlete, because on the other side of that thing, those who achieve, who reach to the top, they're doing other things, and that's what is sad with this thing. But even I just want to inject this in there real quick with that thing that happened yesterday on the Don King event with Severn. Those dudes coming in there looking how they look, and being that a title was put on the line for some crap like that is the other issue in this game. And these are the two other fighters who sat in front of each other, throwing 4 or 5 punches. Then they give each other a break to catch their breath. Then they go back at it again. Throw 5 punches, give each other a break. Then as the fight gets deeper in rounds, they take 2 punches, let each other catch their breath. Then they start laying on each other, throw 2 punches, lay on each other, catch their breath. Then the ref break them up and they go fight. That's trash. And why is a belt being put on the line for a dude to be calling himself a champion? And that's the problem with having too many dang belts in the sport of boxing, that anybody can go after them. And that's the other thing with heavyweights not having requirements on weight. They do this type of stuff, but you have to put in the proper training and look a certain way. I don't even know what kind of physicals they're giving these dudes to even say, okay, he passed a physical, we'll license him for this fight, and it's crap. And they have to represent this sport much better, because it doesn't only affect the top rated guys, it affects the whole division. When you have guys that look like this and they don't fight a certain way. And that's the thing that has to be taken into account of what people are fighting for. You're not just fighting to put on an event, make yourself some money. You got to also represent the product or represent your brand being a heavyweight. And you must come in here, look a certain way, fight in a certain way, because all it does is build up the fighter, no matter what level you're at. Even the lowest level fighters can help build excitement around a division, which ultimately puts money into your pocket. It adds to the earning. And that's what I always tell people, even like on your jobs, you put in the work, because ultimately it makes your work is something that follows you, and it also something that benefits you from the paycheck. And if it's not being done with this job, you carry that same ability and talents to some other company. And therefore, that's the same way these fighters must look at it. Go in here, present yourself a certain way, because if you look this way on TV, that's like the fighter was saying after he won the fight. He was saying, man, thank you for the opportunity, Al Heyman. Bring me back. He performed well, but he got to continue on, because each performance carries you a little bit further up. And that's the reason why you put in the proper training and you box properly to where you excite, because you got to make promoters you got to make it worth their while when they seeing what you're doing inside the ring. You come in there looking sloppy, no matter you win or lose. Ain't nobody bring you back, because you don't do nothing to generate excitement around the fight. And that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, man. One of the things I want to point out too, Reg, in the mid '80s, when we had a few of those overweight fighters, like excuse me, in the heavyweight division in particular, we were beginning to see a few of those men who would come in out of shape and everything. I ran those names off already. But what happened is, one guy came along, Mike Tyson, and the way he performed in the ring, the way he looked in the ring, because he was in shape, he was quick of hands and foot, he was elusive, he had power, and he made those guys in the division, some of them were on their way out. They had their careers already, and he was the young guy, because he was like 21 years old, popping up on the scene, beating up on these veteran men, some former and recent former champions. But when they saw him, including the guys who may be coming up, the Tyrell Biggses and, you know, the likes of that, those guys start to get themselves into shape, Reggie, because they were like, I don't want to be embarrassed. You understand? Even though Tyson was doing what he was doing to people, he set a precedent that if you go in there and you're looking sloppy and everything, he's just going to make you look even worse. So at least the least you could do is to come in some type of physical shape. Huh? And conditioning, read, being in shape, sometimes will allow you to overcome something, to be enduring, to be a person that can possibly prevail because you have sculpted yourself to a point of being able to deal with what's at hand. When you don't try to make yourself meet a precedent where you go out and you say, I have a goal, I need to meet this goal, and you don't, and you just say, F it, you know, I'm not going to do that. What in the world makes you think that someone like me, that I spend my money to watch these fights and stuff, they're going to spend my money to watch you? It's crazy. That's backwards thinking. And why should someone give you a chance when you go out there and you're looking like Harry Hippo and you ain't trying? Listen, for as great a boxer he was, Tony Tubbs was a heavyweight champion and a quickly former heavyweight champion due to external things in his career outside the ring. But the man could box. The story has it that he was like a 16-year-old kid roaming his neighborhood with a pair of gloves thrown over his shoulder, challenging grown men to box him for a few dollars. And he was whooping all of their butts. Tony Tubbs could box. But he had a thing where not being in shape was more important to him than anything. So he would come into the ring and be grossly overweight, still being able to box, but not being able to be the best he could be. And on the night that he went in there with Mike Tyson in Tokyo, Japan, back in 1989, I believe that was, he went in there and he was stopped in 2 rounds by Mike Tyson. And I think the only reason he made it 2 rounds was because he could box. Tony Tubbs could really box. Go back and look at his fight against Riddick Bowe. And that's years after Mike Tyson. I think at least, what was that, maybe 4 years later? 3 years later? He gave Bowe all he could handle. And Bowe is 6'5", 225 pounds when he fought Michael Dokes. When he fought Tony Tubbs. But we're talking about in the fight against Bowe, he came in much better shape that he was closer to when he had won a title. But when he went in there with Mike Tyson, he was 240-something pounds. We're talking about a man who's 6'2.5", and the frame he had, he shouldn't have been over 225, 28 pounds like that. That was his. That's where he should have been. Fast hands, great combinations, tremendous jab. I mean, Tony Tubbs was a really good fighter, but he just couldn't stay in shape. I mean, when you're out there getting hit in the head for a living, man, you need all your faculties. And a lot of guys leave this sport not only without their lives in some instances, but they lose their faculties from being hit in the head. So it's like, that's an oxymoron right there. It's like you need to do your best when you're in there. How are you in you're at your best in boxing and you're 300 pounds. And this is not just about heavyweights, because if you're fighting at 147 pounds, but you're walking around at 200 pounds, it speaks the same of you. The reason that you don't fight often is because you have to work too darn hard with fat camps, losing 50 pounds to make a weight. And now you're seeing more than ever before, I think, in the history of the sport. So many guys are missing weight and losing titles on the scales. It's ridiculous, because they're like, F it. I'm just going to see what they do. If they take my title on the scales, if they find me, you know, I can deal with that. What? Where is your pride? Where is your sensibility? Where is your dignity? Going in there looking like a mountain of bullcrap. And you stink too. Because nobody wants to see you stink up the joint, coming out there looking all lethargic and everything, and laying on the opponent and laying up against the ropes and everything. It's like, we got a sport called WWE, huh? Where we could go watch the real wrestlers, huh? Not you coming out there looking like a snail or something. It's ridiculous, bro. And we have to talk about that. We have to expose it. We have to make these guys understand that that's not acceptable. Go back and look at tapes of guys from the 70s. Huh? Just before the early 80s, you know, just before Larry Holmes' reign. Look at the fighters. Go back and look at the films. Look at what kind of shape they were in. Then the 80s happened, and you could see that guys coming in there looking like doughboys. And then after Mike Tyson came on the scene, look at how guys were back in shape again. Think about it. Tyson, Holyfield, Lewis, that whole era of guys, they were in shape. And the ones who weren't didn't meet up to their, full potential. The Ray Mercers, the Tommy Morrisons, huh? Bruce Seldons. Those guys, they didn't measure up because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Tommy Morrison was probably one of the best Caucasian heavyweights in the modern times. But outside the ring, he had his problems too. He couldn't stop doing certain things that ended up taking him up out of here. It's just something that has to be said, Reggie, and it's something that has to be focused on more so than the purses, more so than who is A and B side, more so than who got clout, who got the most social media people and all of that foolishness. Because where are all the social media people when you get your behind handed to you? They on to the next one, huh? What you got, Reg?
Man, OG, hey, you delivered on that one. I can't even touch on it and shouldn't touch on it because you delivered some great points, and even bringing up with what Mike Tyson did to change the game, change the aspect of how them heavyweights came out to the look, and everything about these lower division fighters ballooning up in weight and not staying close to their fighting weights. No, 200-pound welterweights walking around like that. That stuff makes no sense. But man, you killed that. I don't even want to touch over that.
Yeah, man, it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is for somebody to come along and start cleaning house, right? And then people, just like the old saying, when the cat's away, the mice will play. It's like someone like Tyson come along, and people was like, man, I gotta do my road work. I gotta jump this road. They trying to get their stuff together because they like, if I gotta get in there with that dude and he knocking people heads off and stuff, at least I want to be able to move around the ring and get the hell out of the way. You know what I'm saying? So yes, it happened that way. Marvin Hagler at middleweight, people was like, oh, he should move up, or why don't he move up and fight Michael Spinks? Well, why do he need to move up and fight Michael Spinks when he's doing so well where he is? And when he's not fighting, he's only about 12 pounds heavier walking around than when he fights. Look at Sugar Ray Leonard today. Look at how small and thin Sugar Ray is. Look at him. He looked like he's only about 15 pounds heavier than when he fought. And you go back and look in history and you see guys like Wilfredo Gomez and stuff like that. Wilfredo Gomez, when he fought at lightweight and down there at super featherweight and stuff like that, when he was fighting, he was a ripped guy and knocking people's heads off, had the thick mustache and everything and a full head of hair. You see him now, dude is like 200 plus pounds. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing about him, but I'm saying that when he was fighting at his weight, how he maintained, right? How Leonard maintained, how Hagler maintained. This is how they did. And you could see, for those who weren't able to keep their discipline, even in retirement, you could see that certain people, it became a way of life for them. That's why they can walk around and still look good. Like Marvin Hagler still looks great today. Ray Leonard still looks great today. You know what I mean? It's like because they maintained it. It was a way of life for them. That's how they were able to compete in that ring the way that they did, because the mental conditioning along with the physical conditioning, there was a marriage. The only thing these dudes are married to today is the supersize me and the steaks. Huh? That's what they married to. It's ridiculous. You watching two fat dudes. You might as well be watching sumo wrestling from Japan. Godzilla versus King Kong. It's a movie I seen. They got a movie coming. It's trailers everywhere. That's what they look like. Two big Titanic monsters in the ring. Only thing you needed to put around them was some small buildings or something like that. And you'd be like, that's a Japanese monster movie right there we watching. That's what they look like. Disgraceful. You talk about them fighting for a belt? If they won a belt, the belt wouldn't even fit around their waist. Get out of here. Man. But that's about it, Reg. I don't have any more on this foolishness, man. And we can get on out of here. We've spent enough time keeping people up, and you know, it's been a night of boxing that it's like, you know, it was so-so. It was so-so. And it wasn't good for me simply because I had that problem with the buffering. But I figured this out. It's like the storm. It's got to be. But when I get that equipment that I'm expecting in the mail this week, I should have no more problems with this. But yeah. Well, go ahead and give us some final thoughts, Reg, and let everybody know where they could follow you and subscribe to your channel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Another great live, man. Another great post-fight, man. Salute to the both of the OGs. Just yourself, OG Stormy B, man, and OG Curtis Anderson, man. Great discussion, man. And you hit solid on that point with when you get someone who comes in here and they take the sport serious and they're putting in all that proper work, it forces these other guys to become a better version of themselves. It forces them. And you also see what happens when those who don't give great account of themselves, but they want to be up there, they cheat their way up. And that's where the science has to be involved into shortcutting that type of activity going on into the game, because you get too many of those not willing to put in the full aspects of keeping themselves in top gear shape that they pull this stuff off. And those who put in the great efforts of doing everything properly, raising the stakes, putting divisions on their back, bringing great presentations to what's performed in front of people that make people willing to put and shell out money to watch what's going on because they're entertained and they respect every aspect of what's being delivered. Salute to y'all. And y'all who come up in these fights looking like chewed up bubblegum, please step out the ring, step away from the sport, sit on the couch, talk it like we talk it, and stop presenting this stuff. And promoters, stop putting these type of people on the events because you sell the sports short. You really sell the sports short. And stop giving these opportunities to fighters who walk around in these lower divisions way out of rank. Because you even seeing where you was talking about the fighters missing weight, kind of on a it's becoming such a common occurrence. But these fighters are missing weight by like 3, 4, 5. Even seen a guy missing by 8 pounds. That's the ridiculousness of what people aren't putting in because they're too distracted. One check comes into these dudes and they lose their dang minds. They forget how the money was made and how more of it can be made and how more of it can be gained and made. But great live, man. Oh, and once again, y'all can find me at Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. Be over here with the OG on Fridays and on Saturdays when we got fights. But that's all I got, man. Great show, OG. And y'all hit that like button too, man. If you haven't done it, please hit that like button.
Yeah, and Reggie, you can put that link in the chat. I don't mind you putting it in there. So whenever, every show, whatever, you just put the link in there. It's fine to drop it.
Oh, I always forget that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, it's been a great show. We've had a chance to talk. Salute to Kurt, who stopped in and blessed us with his knowledge and his perspective. Salute to everybody out there in the chat that came from other channels after the fights. Fred Barbershop Conversations, Fred sent some people over. Reggie helped with that. Appreciate you all who came over. Those who came from KQKC's broadcast. I got a lot of respect for KQKC, my fellow Chicagoan. We are here in the Chi. And you know what? I support his channel as well. It's like, so to have you all over here, it's just like you being over there. It's just that I don't sing, but I do have my little ways that I communicate, but I don't sing. But yeah, appreciate you all coming out. For everybody that donated in the super chat, I want to say thank you for that, because anything that comes in from the super chats and the donations or the cash apps or whatever goes towards Stormy trying to increase the brand here, trying to make this whole a better experience for everyone involved. I do try to do that. I'm trying to make some upgrades, trying to present things in a manner of which, it's pleasant. So just know that I'm always out here working like that. And for those of you who don't know, we also have the merchandise for STORMYBMAN's gear. It's just like I'm wearing a hoodie right now. It's my STORMYBMAN hoodie. I like to wear this when I'm doing my air shows. And we also have baseball caps. We've got backpacks. We've got masks. If you got to use the COVID mask on your jobs and stuff like that, it's like we got masks, t-shirts. So we're really doing it over here. We're just trying to make the whole experience more complete and to provide you all with a sense of a connection from the community. So just know that that's what we're doing over here on STORMYBMAN's channel, man. And we're trying to do our best for you at all times. So, but yeah, it's been a great show. Want to say shout out to the LDBC and the other people that have come from different sources, because we, when we do these lives, there'd be people all over the world that be watching our material. So it's like we know that we reach a broad audience, and we try to do it with respect here on the channel. So with all of that being said, we're going to get on up out of here, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. It has been another post-fight show. It's been Caleb Plant versus Caleb TRUAX. And We're going to get on out of here. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.